Today, while Lucky was embracing me, I had noticed that his toothpick had been whittled down, and I had to do something about it immediately. So I went around the neighborhood and picked out the finest tree I could find, chopped it down, and brought it home. I proceeded to chop up the tree and pick out the finest branches where I could whittle down. This is me just taking a knife to the branches. And you can see Lucky's a little impatient. He loves his toothpicks. I then scattered the remains of the sawdust across my kitchen for a nice pine smell. Then took my eucalyptus and mint that I've been growing for months, crushed it up finely, and scattered it on the toothpick for a nice taste and scent. And there you go. That's how I make Lucky's homemade toothpicks. Made from scratch and made with love.
Can you focus on me? Baby, can you focus on me?
Welcome back to my channel. My name is Giselle Gunya. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your bell notifications so that you don't miss a post. Recently, there's been a wave of young women on social media embracing and promoting the concept of becoming a trad wife or traditional wife, where women return to the conventional homemaker roles, focusing on family life, supporting their husbands, and creating a peaceful home. Influencers like Nara Smith have brought this lifestyle into the spotlight, framing it as a fulfilling and rewarding choice that empowers women through devotion to family and traditional values. But as with any trend, the trad wife movement is not without its critics, nor is it equally accessible or realistic to everyone. While some argue that this lifestyle offers stability and purpose, others see it as regressive, trapping women in outdated gender roles. What's also missing in this trend is a deep conversation about race and cultural context. Specifically within the Black community, traditional marriages and the stay-at-home wife ideal are often seen as less attainable due to social, economic, and cultural factors that impact marriage rates and family structures. Today we're going to dive into the pros and cons of the trad wife lifestyle, discuss why it's become popular, and explore why it may resonate differently across racial lines. We'll also touch on why some former trad wives are now stepping away from this role and speaking out against it. So let's get into it.
Oh yeah, let's talk about white women specifically and this rising desire to be housewives. First of all, thanks for educating me. I didn't know the term trad wife, and I looked it up, and it's like the desire for traditional gender roles between men and women. It doesn't surprise me that white women especially are like flaunting and rebranding this idea of being a housewife, because if I've learned anything about white European women, especially in the US, they know how to deny their power and act powerless. It always seems like just at the peak of like movement, when like change can happen and, you know, there can be liberation or justice, it's like there's a retreat that I see among white women of like, oh, this is too hard. I need an easy route right now. There are no shortcuts to liberation, and I feel like a lot of BIPOC women understand that, and we need to like be the leading force in not following this trend of being housewives, like, and talking about why it's
Alright, let's start by breaking down what it actually means to be a trad wife. The traditional wife or trad wife lifestyle usually revolves around a woman dedicating herself to managing the home, supporting her spouse, and raising children. This role tends to be low on career ambition outside of the home, instead centering on family as her main focus. So why are many women drawn to this lifestyle? There's something appealing in the stability and simplicity it promises. It's a vision of life that removes the need to juggle a career with family, reducing some of the stress that comes with balancing it all. A lot of women finding a sense of purpose here. seeing themselves as central to the home and family. It's a commitment to values like caretaking, nurturing, and creating a peaceful space for everyone. The rise of social media has only amplified this trend. Influencers like Nara Smith have made this lifestyle seem almost idyllic, aspirational even. For many, it feels like an antidote to the high stress, career-focused expectations society often places on women. And that appeal is real. But is that realistic for everyone? And what might we not be seeing behind the camera?
When I asked my toddlers what they wanted for dinner and they both requested SpaghettiOs, I was a little taken aback. I wasn't aware that they knew what SpaghettiOs were, but nevertheless, I made them some for dinner. Cut my tomatoes in half, grated them, and then moved on to thinly slicing my garlic and dicing up my onion. I made sure to get a smaller dice on those. I added some olive oil and garlic to my pot, let that heat up on the stove before adding in my onions and some tomato paste. Once that had a few minutes, I poured in my grated tomato, leftover Parmesan rind, some oregano, salt, a pinch of sugar, and just a touch of balsamic vinegar. While that was simmering, I got started on my pasta dough by combining some eggs, flour, salt, oil, and kneading that until it came together before wrapping it in plastic wrap and letting it chill for about an hour. I then used my pasta attachment to get the shape I wanted before cutting it into smaller pieces and forming it into the classic SpaghettiO shape. This took me about an hour, but it was definitely worth it. Once they were all done, I put them into the sauce, let them cook for about 10 minutes before it was time to serve. Plated both of them up a bowl, topped it with Parmesan cheese, and they both wanted seconds.
Let's talk about the problems when you romanticize a 1950s homemaker aesthetic. Coming from someone who's a full-time stay-at-home mom, homemaker, who loves a vintage moment. The reason videos like this can be met with negative response is because it's erasing the entire domestic labor force that was depended upon by these upper middle class white stay-at-home moms. The traditional housewife of the 1950s, 1960s was never meant to do everything by themselves. They always had domestic labor. And honestly, since the Industrial Revolution, these ideas of ornamental upper-class white housewives were an offshoot and a demonstration of their husband's wealth. So these were not women who were expected to lift a finger. And yes, we can idealize the fashions and the styles of the 1950s and still enjoy being stay-at-home wives and homemakers and mothers, while acknowledging the labor that made that possible.
Okay, now let's dive into a more complex layer of this topic: race and cultural context. Historically, the trad wife concept has been associated with white to upper middle class women, people who statistically have had more financial stability and support for traditional family roles. But for women from different racial or socioeconomic backgrounds, this model doesn't always translate as easily. In the Black community, for instance, traditional marriage rates tend to be lower due to a variety of structural barriers. Economic inequality, higher incarceration rates among Black men, and other social factors have all contributed to the different family structures and dynamics. So the trad wife ideal might feel like a distant or even irrelevant dream for Black women who are facing unique challenges to family life and marriage. For Black women and women from other marginalized communities, the idea of being a trad wife isn't always seen as attainable. Sometimes it's not even something that they would see as empowering or safe. And that brings us to the next question. Why does this conversation look so different in different communities? And is the trad wife lifestyle really a one-size-fits-all solution to happiness?
So I think the reason why we're seeing so many Black women fall into this idea of the trad wife lifestyle is because A, for so long we have been seen as masculine, and then B, I think a lot of Black women think it might increase their desirability. Because as a Black woman, you've probably heard two things throughout your entire life, and one is being that we are the least desired amongst the races and genders, and then the other thing is that you need to be successful and never depend on a man, that, you need to have your degree and a good career, because at the end of the day, all you can rely on is you. So they probably think that being a trad wife will let them reach that level of femininity and also desirability. I don't want to necessarily call these women pick-me's, but probably also see a lot of men in the comments being like, okay, this is what I love in a woman, like, women should be this, like, I would wife this woman up in a heartbeat. And so you see that, and it's like, okay, maybe one day I can finally sit in my femininity. Maybe one day I will get picked. Maybe someday I will be taken care of if I follow this lifestyle. And what a lot of women know, and not just Black women, all women who want to who want to chase this trad wife lifestyle, is that a lot of this on TikTok is all for show, okay? It's for engagement and money. And what a lot of Black women don't realize that want this specific lifestyle is that you can sit in your femininity. You don't need to follow this trad wife lifestyle, and you will find someone who loves you and wants to make sure your needs are met. So don't fall for the fantasy that you see on social media.
I'm here to tell you why that whole trad wife trend is absolute bullcrap. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who has been married for about 15 years now. Before she got married, she got a master's degree in education and a law degree. She met her husband in law school. He wanted a traditional wife. She did not take the bar, and instead they got married. He took the bar. He passed the bar. He became a lawyer, and she became a full-time housewife and later a mom. Times 5. They have 5 children. Okay. Fast forward 15 years, where he has been cheating on her for years. She finally caught him red-handed. She has enough confidence and determination to say, I want a divorce, I'm done. He's walking away with a $300,000+ job that he got, by the way, from one of her mom friends in a mom group. Let's just put that aside. She has nothing. She has 2 advanced degrees, 0 experience. So are they even worthwhile? Are they even worth anything? She has nothing to show for it. And in the last 15 years, what has changed in law and in education? Probably quite a bit. So she is stuck at this crossroads of feeling like she has nothing. And before you say alimony, he is trying to screw her out of everything he possibly can. She cannot keep the house, even though she has primary custody of the children. She can't afford it. She has no job. Absolutely no job right now. And even if she did, there are 5 children. So between drop-offs and pickups at 4 different schools, she has about 3 hours in the daytime when she is not tending to children. So to any woman who is considering that the trad wife lifestyle might be it for you, I encourage you to think about this story. Remember it. And just remember that you as a woman need to have something for yourself. If anything, just for yourself, because you absolutely never know what can happen in life, whether it be divorce, whether it be cheating, whether it be the passing away of your spouse. You have to take care of yourself and put yourself first. You can still love and support your husband and be an incredible wife who takes care of your man, but take care of yourself first.
Now let's look at the other side. While the trad wife lifestyle has its appeal, it's not without criticisms. One of the biggest concerns that people have is that this lifestyle enforces traditional gender roles. By embracing the trad wife model, some say that women may end up losing a sense of independence or their individual identity outside of family. There's a question of whether this trend genuinely empowers women or subtly pushes them back into roles that society once demanded from them. And as per the previous video, we're also seeing a rise in the ex-trad wife movement, which is huge, y'all. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to post another video on this, where former trad wives are sharing their experiences about feeling trapped or unfulfilled. Many of these women talk about how the lifestyle wasn't what they expected and how difficult it was to re-enter the workplace or find themselves after dedicating years solely to the life of family. So another important concern is financial independence. By stepping away from a career or financial independence, trad wives often put themselves at risk. if something goes wrong. In cases of divorce or unexpected life changes, women in these roles can find themselves financially vulnerable. So, for many, the question becomes, is this lifestyle worth the potential risk? Or are there ways to balance these traditional values with the reality of modern day independence?
I think it's been really interesting to see how shocked people are by the term trad wife and how they seem to think it's some new way of living, like it's some unprecedented new trend. Like, have you seen these millennial and Gen Z girls? They just want to be at home with their kids. They want to have husbands and they want to take care of their husbands. They want to cook and they want to clean and they want to wear dresses. It's insane. When in reality, it's literally like the oldest lifestyle in the book. Before this, they were just called stay-at-home moms. And before that, they were just called women. But now our society has gone so far in the feminist direction that anybody who wants to live like a little bit old school and a little bit like how women used to live is fringe, right? Like an extremist. And I just think about how so many of us, since we were little, we were raised in this kind of boss babe feminist society that told us you can be so much more than just a mom. You can be so much more than just a wife. And so many of us listened and we, tried to climb corporate ladders and we boss babed so hard. Now, like, we're a little bit boss babed out. And some of us want to go a little bit more back to our roots, to our ancestors, to the women who came before us and live a little bit more, like they did. Call us crazy, but we like babies. We want to have babies. We want to spend the very few years that we have of them being little with them. We like cooking, we like running a home, we like supporting our husbands and having good marriages. And yes, we also appreciate cute dresses. The audacity. So call them trad wives, call them stay-at-home moms, call them whatever you want. But just know that no matter how much you try and push the career and the boss babe and the feminist lifestyle onto women, there will always be women who naturally want a more traditional lifestyle, just like the billions of women who came before us.
My husband doesn't cook, but he bakes. When we got home late last night and I asked him to make me some cookie dough, he said he would, only if I made us some vanilla ice cream to go with it. So after I agreed, he got started on mixing white and brown sugar, adding some soft butter, an egg, baking powder, baking soda, some salt. You can't forget about the vanilla. He gradually added flour and oats and obviously a bunch of chocolate chips. This dough was so good I couldn't help but snack on it. While that was set aside, I got started on making some vanilla ice cream by combining milk, sugar, heavy cream, and some vanilla, letting that heat up on the stove while I made my egg mixture. Once that came together, I tempered my eggs, poured that back into the pot, and let that heat up before straining it through a fine mesh strainer. Set that bowl on top of some ice to cool it down, and then popped it in the freezer so it would cool down quicker. At this point, Lucky started baking off the cookies in batches for about 7 minutes. Once they came out, he transferred them over to a wire rack. While the last batch of cookies were baking, I churned my ice cream until it hit soft serve consistency, added some warm cookies, and this was the perfect midnight snack.
The trad wives discourse is interesting, and I have many thoughts per usual. Depending on whether you view being an influencer or a social media personality as a job or not, this may be an unpopular opinion. However, if you view those two roles as a job, trad wives, influencers, they work. And if we view being an influencer or a social media personality as a job, you understand that they are selling you an image. Who would watch these influencers and think that what they are doing is influencing a whole generation of women to become traditional wives? What these influencers are showing you is conspicuous labor and conspicuous consumption, not actual work. Now, don't get me wrong, what they are doing is work. For Nara Smith to sit there and make all of these meals from scratch, it is absolutely work involved in that. However, the vast majority of stay-at-home moms are not doing that. Work for the average stay-at-home mom does not look like that because the average stay-at-home mom does not have access to the type of wealth that these trad wives, influencers, and social media personalities have. And to blame Sprinkle and trad wives influencers pulling women back into this place where second wave feminism fought so hard against, it's lazy. There are very real things happening in our culture right now that have nothing to do with trad wives influencers. The cost of living has gone up, but the cost of wages has not increased in decades. And when you take that into account along with the pay gap, what is happening is a lot of women are being forced into the role of being stay-at-home moms or taking on part-time jobs because the cost of childcare is absolutely insane. So many of my college friends took on part-time jobs or became stay-at-home moms entirely until their children were old enough to go to school because the cost of daycare, it ended up eating up their entire paycheck. Their philosophy was, if I'm going to work and give away my paycheck anyway for somebody to take care of my kid, I may as well drop out of the workforce and take care of my kid. They were the ones dropping out of the workforce, not their husbands, because their husbands made more than they did. Also, what's going on in our society is this polarization of men. And on top of that, you have the erosion of women's rights happening everywhere. We are still very much so existing under the patriarchy, and our cultural as well as our social and economic landscape reflect that. It is very easy to get on these e-streets and blame these trad wives, influencers, and social media personalities as if they're pulling women back or trying to sell women an unrealistic image, when all that's really happening is they are a reflection of our society as it exists today. And again, if you view being an influencer as a job, these women are working. This is getting long, so to wrap this up, in sum, trad wives work. They are influencers. They are doing a job. If people, however, feel they're selling this dangerous image, they need to go and attack the roots of this image, the patriarchy, gender inequality as it pertains to pay, politicians waging war on women's reproductive rights, organized religion. Call your congressperson.
As we have seen, the trad wife lifestyle comes with its pros and cons, but ultimately it's about individual choice. This lifestyle might not work wonderfully for some women, while others may find it greater fulfillment balancing a career with family or taking on roles outside of the home. What's important is that women feel free to make that choice without feeling pressured or judged. If a woman wants to be a trad wife, she should feel empowered to pursue that. But if she wants to build a career, pursue her own ambitions, or take on multiple roles, she should feel just as empowered to do so. One of the things I find valuable about this trend is that it brings up the important conversations on modern relationships, gender roles, and evolving expectations. Whether or not we agree with the trad wife lifestyle, these are discussions that need to happen. And maybe that's what we should be taking away from this trend. Not that there's one right way to live, but that we should all support one another in creating lives that reflect who we truly want to be. So I wanted to share a bit of my own life. As a stay-at-home wife and mom, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a traditional wife, as my husband and I both share the responsibilities in the home. He's very hands-on with the family, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, and it's truly a blessing. But in this channel, I really want it to be a welcoming space where women feel safe to share their tips, insights, and experiences. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or balancing a career with family, we all have different paths, and I respect that. Personally, while I understand that many families are comfortable with sending their children to daycare or school, that's just not where my husband and I stand. We want to be the ones guiding and nurturing our children during their formative years. And with how the world is evolving, it's important for us to have a say in what they're being exposed to and taught. I've had this conversation with other moms where I felt judged for choosing to stay at home with my children or for being able to do so. But while I might not have the mental or emotional readiness right now to send my children to daycare, I also respect the other choices that mothers make for their families. Whether it's daycare, family support, or something else, each mother does what's best for her and her family, and that's what matters. At this stage, I'm working on my side hustles and business plans that align with my family's visions and values, building something that we can all be a part of. And yes, I married with the intention of staying married for life, but I also believe in having my own safety net, my own goals, and my own sense of security. My husband invests in me, and I do as well for him, and he supports my interests just as I care for him and our children in our home. Together, we're striving to build a life grounded in our faith and the principles we hold dear. Thank you for being here with me on this journey, and I'd love to hear from you. Your stories, experiences, and perspectives are all welcome. Whether you're pursuing traditional path, balancing multiple roles, or following your own unique approach, let's support each other along the way. Please let me know what your thoughts and opinions are on this video in my commentary down in the comment section below. Thank you guys, and let's get back into the video.
Are you on Trad Woman TikTok? So apparently there's a whole side of TikTok dedicated to trad wives. Trad wife stands for traditional wife. Trad is short for traditional. These women wear 1950s, 60s outfits every single day, aprons and all. They dress like that. They take care of the house. They take care of the kids. They cook, they clean, and they budget everything for the house. They don't have any interest outside of the house. They do not have a job. The man is the only one who has interest outside of the house and provides for the family. So they also have to be on a really tight, strict budget because obviously bread is $59. So these trad wives are saying that the reason why traditional women no longer exist is because of feminists, because the feminist movement of Passport Rose Wet Dream. Okay, they're all in the comments like, yes, queen. So the intellects of the internet are saying, not so fast with them bunk cakes. That is not why the traditional woman no longer exists. The traditional woman no longer exists because of capitalism and because you are no longer able to exploit and use black and brown bodies. So you may be thinking, well, how I get in it? How did black and brown bodies get in it? If you're thinking about the aesthetic that they're cosplaying back in the 50s and 60s, who was doing most of the domestic labor? Black women. We was the nannies, we was the housekeepers, we were doing all of that. So in the 70s and 80s, we moved out of that role. So capitalism had to jump in and be like, well, in order to keep the house still efficient, here you go. Here's a washer and dryer. Here's a automatic this and an automatic that. I'm going to tag the people who talk about this in depth. But it gets deeper and it gets juicy. Follow me.
Some women may not like what I have to say about this topic because it's a sensitive topic in the community of women. But in my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, I personally believe that being a stay-at-home mom is a trap. It is a trap made by the patriarchy, being a stay-at-home traditional mom. Now, if you choose to do that, that is your choice. I don't judge anybody who chooses to do that. But what really irks my nerves is when other moms who are stay-at-home moms judge women who decide to work. I had somebody in my comments literally sit here and tell me I'm jealous because I can't stay at home. Like, that's not, I choose to work. I didn't go to school and get this degree and start my career to now become a stay-at-home mom. That was never something I wanted to do. So, and I find that a lot of stay-at-home moms do glamorize it and they do judge other women that cannot stay at home or that choose not to stay at home. And it's very weird to me because at the end of the day, us women that do work, I'm never going to have to worry about the fact that if my husband decides that he wants to leave me, if he doesn't want to be in this marriage anymore, and I'm not stuck. Like if I want to leave my situation, I could, my man walked out the door right now. If I wanted to walk out the door right now, my daughter and I would be just fine. Like I can pay for my daughter and I can take care of us financially. A man is not a plan. I will never put my whole life into a man's hands. Love my man down, but my mom did that and she literally drilled in my head as a kid and as an adult, like teenager, to always put myself first and make sure that I have something that I can follow. Like I don't just depend on anybody. So yeah, that's my outlook on that. And if you have to stay at home because you don't want to put your kids in daycare, I stay at home and with my daughter and work from home. I'm very fortunate in that regard. But if you don't want to put your kids in daycare, I get that because I'm not, and there's nothing wrong with daycare either, but I just choose to not. And I plan on actually probably doing preschool because she kind of needs a social interaction, but that's besides the point. I understand that. So while you're doing that, I would hope that you're trying to do something like get a certification, continue your college education, build a business, something while you're staying at home so you have something to fall back on, or you have something like that you can start working when they're in school. Like that's what my hope for you. But there is women that choose to, stay at home and continue with that while their man works, and all power to you. But please do not shame the moms that choose to work. There's so many. I'm in a couple mom pages and a couple women's pages, and I cannot tell you the number of posts a day of these women coming on here, have no idea what they're going to do because their husband has decided that they don't want to be with them anymore. Their husband is cheating, or they hate their relationship or marriage they're in, and they're stuck. They have no way out. Yeah, I couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. If I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out of here. I couldn't be me. So there's that aspect. And then if you're a stay-at-home girlfriend with no wife title, that's another major red flag for me. Like, you have no legal standing. You have no legal backing if he decides to leave you. You could get child support and that's it. Like, please, please do not shame the moms that want to work. And make sure you have something to fall back on. That's all I'm going to say.
If you made it through, you know what to do. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, y'all, so we could grow this community. Thank you guys. Be safe and God bless. Bye.
Baby, can you focus?